went too far. Firstly, this kid was walking into an elevator when the floor opened up. He genuinely thought he was falling to his death until he fell onto a slide that covered him in foam and feathers, which destroyed all of his belongings, including his laptop. Next, these people were applying for a job at LG Electronics when the window behind the interviewer showed a meteor crashing down, seemingly destroying the entire city. They were screaming and crying until the company had to run in and tell them it was just a screen.
What's up, Seekers? Welcome back to the channel. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing alright, man. You guys know what we do if you're brand new to the channel. We break down scary and creepy videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG videos, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel, Seekers. Just want to thank you guys who's been tapping into the channel, subscribing, hitting that like button, hitting that post notification bell, man. I really appreciate your support. Like I said, that's how we can grow our community together, the Seekers. So if you guys do those steps, we're on our way up, man. Like I said, once again, I messed with the audio settings, man. You guys have been seeing how you couldn't hear the videos on some of it, so I turned it way up. Let me know down in the comments, man. Is the audio, is it good or fine, man? Like I said, I'm trying to get this right for you guys, Seekers, man. Mike is coming soon. Let's do what we do best. Let's seek the truth.
75 passengers lost their lives after this pilot let his children in the cockpit. On March 23rd, 1994, an Aeroflot aircraft was flying from Russia to Hong Kong when the airplane tragically crashed. Only a few hours into the flight, one of the pilots allowed his two children, who were also on the flight, to enter the cockpit so that they can see how everything operated. The pilot's 16-year-old son Elder and his 12-year-old daughter Yana had the opportunity to sit in the pilot's seat and play around with the aircraft's controls. Of course, autopilot was on, so this was not supposed to be dangerous. Well, at least that's what he thought. The pilot told his son Elder that he can turn the plane to one side so he can experience what it was to fly a plane. Unfortunately, this disabled autopilot. The pilots were unaware that the plane began turning, but once they noticed, the plane had steepened to almost 90 degrees. The plane started to quickly descend while the pilots tried to figure out what was wrong. And there's actually an audio recording of how everything played out, and you can hear the fear in these pilots' voices. The plane ended up crashing on a mountain in Russia, killing all 75 passengers on board. After investigating, they said that the cause of the crash were the children who were playing with the controls in the aircraft. And it was said that if the pilots had left the controls alone rather than trying to fix them manually, the plane would have corrected itself.
Pranks that definitely went too far. Firstly, this kid was walking into an elevator when the floor opened up. He genuinely thought he was falling to his death until he fell onto a slide that covered him in foam and feathers, which destroyed all of his belongings, including his laptop. Next, these people were applying for a job at LG Electronics when the window behind the interviewer showed a meteor crashing down, seemingly destroying the entire city. They were screaming and crying until the company had to run in and tell them it was just a screen. Finally, this prank is the worst one of all. These customers were paying for store items when a Grim Reaper appeared on the screen. When they turned around and saw a man with a scythe winking, they each began to tear up in regret, believing that these were their final moments.
Seekers, man, yeah. See how some people, man, they be taking jokes too far. That's definitely the case, man. Like, if you see a damn Reaper behind you, Seekers, how would you guys react? And then turn around and see an old man there. We don't play with that type of energy.
This woman murdered a teenager because it was on her bucket list. It was 2016 and Gemma Lilly was 26 years old. She was obsessed with serial killers and she'd emigrated to Australia 6 years earlier, back in 2010. She was originally from Lincolnshire and had a troubled upbringing. Her fascination with crime and horror was a dark one, and disturbingly, she even put murdering someone on her bucket list. Her housemate was 44-year-old Trudy Lennon. She was actually introduced by a mutual friend to Trudy. Trudy had been struggling financially and actually had 2 children to feed, so the pair decided to live together in order to share bills. At this point, the women started sharing disturbing fantasies about killing someone. Some of these were even documented in the online chats that the pair had. They used the code names SOS and Corvina. Within the space of just 3 weeks living together, the pair hatched a sickening plan. Terrifyingly, in the days leading up to the plan, the pair bought a circular saw, bleach, cement, a drop sheet, a large plastic barrel, and some acetone.
Damn.
Trudy identified their victim. Aaron Page was friends with one of Trudy's sons, and she decided they would lure him to the flat. They used the excuse of needing Aaron to come and install some games onto their computers. As he obliged, Gemma came up behind him and strangled him with a wire. She then stabbed him 3 times. They buried him in a shallow grave and attempted to cover it with concrete. Aaron was reported missing on the 14th of June after failing to return home. It was on the 20th of June that police were able to track Aaron's last call to Gemma's phone, which led them to investigate her. They searched the property and found Aaron's body along with a knife and the saw. Police even found CCTV evidence from Gemma's own CCTV camera. In 2018, both women were sentenced to life with a minimum term of 28 years.
She had that on a bucket list, Seekers. That's a different type of person, man. Truly.
This daycare worker is why many Americans choose to not send their kids to daycare. Hi, my name is Ethan, and trigger warning, this is a dark case. In June of 2018, a 1-year-old in Jessica Cherry's care allegedly fell from a chair, hit her head, and suffered extensive bruising and skull fracture. Fast forward 2 years later, another 2-year-old was found deceased in Jessica's playpen in her home. Jessica immediately called 911, and the 2-year-old was transported to Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters and was pronounced deceased. The pathologist who performed the autopsy on the 2-year-old later declared that she was potentially smothered, and that is how she passed away. They also saw that the child had blunt force injuries as well. Jessica was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in August of 2022, and on March 17th of this year, she was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
Prosecutors will not seek the death penalty for the murders of Keelio and Roxy Coleman. If you don't know, Matthew Coleman is accused of killing his 2-year-old and 10-month-old because he believed his wife had passed on serpent DNA. He's confessed to shooting their kids with a spearfishing gun 29 times, yet he pleads not guilty. According to prosecutors, on August 7th, the family was just outside of their Santa Barbara home packing for a camping trip. Seemingly out of nowhere, Matthew picked up the kids, put them in the van, and drove off. Immediately, Abby Coleman called 911. But at first, she didn't want an officer to come out as she thought they would all be back soon. That following day, on August 8th, Abby changed her mind. She reported her family missing and, with police, used Find My iPhone to track her husband's last known location. With this, it became clear Matthew had driven Keelio and Roxy into Mexico. FBI at the border was alerted to be on the lookout, but by this point, he was already carrying out his plan. As confirmed by surveillance footage, around 3 a.m. on August 9th, the 3 were seen leaving a Rosarito hotel. From here, Matthew just started driving. At 3:12, he texted Abby that things have been rough, but he's finally gotten some clarity. Tragically, we know that shortly after that message was sent, the kids were killed on the outskirts of a remote ranch. Matthew attempted to hide their bodies and then disposed of the weapon and bloody clothing in a nearby creek. Now, while the kids were found by 7:30 that morning, back at home, no one knew. When Abby woke up that morning, she got Matthew's message about clarity. She responded with this at 9:24 a.m. and then alerted police that his iPhone was headed back towards the border. Obviously, when Matthew tried to cross back over, the kids weren't with him. In recorded interviews, he discussed wild conspiracy theories, along with how he could communicate with his children. He said 10-month-old Roxy told him Abby was abusing them and that he had to kill them to save the world. So again, today Matthew still pleads not guilty, with the most recent update being that he will not face the death penalty. Court records also reveal that he and Abby shared mutual interest in these theories, but his beliefs reportedly grew stronger. Investigators say that they have and will continue to treat Abby as a victim in the case.
This is a tragic story.
Man, the thing that got me at the end, Seekers, when she said those two, they shared the same theory, so they was on that same that conspiracy theory, whatever they believed in, and led to a dark path, Seekers, man. That's how sometimes I don't try to go too deep into this, like, conspiracy theory hole, because it can really change this perspective. You can become a completely different person. It's good to do research, but I feel like there's too much information, man. It might overload your brain. Sometimes you gotta take a break to just to process all this new information we're learning, Seekers.
Story of how this boxer went from this to this. Back in 2015, 23-year-old Pritchard Cullen and Terrell Williams competed at the Eagle Bank Arena in Virginia. At this point, Pritchard had only been pro for 2 years until this fight, which would be the last time he entered the ring, leaving him in a vegetative state. From the very beginning of the fight, Pritchard complained to the referee that Terrell kept hitting him with rabbit punches. And if you don't know what that is, they're punches to the back of the head or neck that are extremely dangerous and can cause brain or spinal cord injury. These punches are illegal, and usually the fighter would be disqualified if it happened in a fight. Pritchard also mentioned to the ringside physician that he felt dizzy, but he could still go on, so the match continued. But on this night, after multiple rounds and blows to the head, when Pritchard went into his dressing room, he began throwing up. He eventually passed out and was rushed to the hospital, where he underwent surgery for internal bleeding in his brain, and then he went into a coma for 221 days. When Pritchard woke up, he was in a vegetative state, and his mother and father have been taking care of him ever since. The blame has not only been put on Terrell for throwing illegal punches, but the referee and the physician who sat ringside were also negligent for failing to take any required steps to either stop the fight or get Pritchard some help. Pritchard's family filed a $50 million lawsuit against the physician, but it's never been settled, and apparently he's not legally responsible for any of this. Pritchard's parents were told by doctors that he would never get better because of the damage that was done. But if you see some progress videos that have been posted online, it's clear that Pritchard has gotten better, and I hope that one day he can be close to what he was.
Detail seekers. You never know what will happen. Eddie.
Horrific new details have been revealed in the case of Abby Williams and Libby German. If you've been following, you know the girls were enjoying a day off school when they were killed near Delphi's Monon Highbridge Trail. Richard Allen has since been arrested, with his defense now arguing that the way they were found actually suggests a ritualistic sacrifice. On Monday, they filed a 136-page document, including a step-by-step of what Richard would have to do to commit these crimes between 2:13 and 3:30 p.m. I'm going to be brief, but again, a warning that these details are horrific. According to court documents, the crime scene on Valentine's Day was ghoulish, with what appeared to be the letter F painted in blood on a tree. The girls were, quote, treated differently, but both reportedly suffered wounds to their necks. Abby was dressed in Libby's sweatshirt and jeans, with more clothes found in the nearby river. Aside from that, the defense states that the girls were positioned with branches of varying sizes arranged on their bodies. On Abby, there were sticks mimicking antlers, and another placement included 3 branches that resembled an asterisk. So with all of this information and more, the defense is arguing a lot. That no one could have done this alone, that there is overwhelming evidence tying Odinism to the crime scene, and that several officials believed a cult to be behind the murders. They also named 5 suspects who they say were cleared too quickly, including a man whose son was dating Abby at the time. They know that his social media posts contain runes that actually mimic the crime scene. It is a 136-page document, so there's a lot. But another thing the defense is asking for is a hearing to present evidence to throw out the search warrant at Richard's house. That is where police reportedly found a gun that matched a bullet found at the crime scene. As of today, the prosecution has not responded to any of the defense's claims. As always, if you would like to donate in Abby and Libby's name, go to the Abby and Libby Memorial Park Fund.
This girl
Those
killed
calls,
her mum
man.
so
Gotta
that she
be
wouldn't
careful about
find out
those
she got
seekers.
kicked out of school. On the 3rd of March 2020, police were called to do a welfare check at a property in Ohio. Brenda Powell lived in the house, the 50-year-old mother of Sydney Powell. Brenda had actually been on the phone with Sydney's former school. This was the University of Mount Union. Now, during the telephone call, a staff member heard repeated thuds and screaming, so authorities were alerted. Inside, they found Brenda Powell in a serious condition. She was rushed to hospital but died from her injuries. Brenda had been unaware that her 19-year-old daughter had been kicked out of the school. During her telephone conversation, Brenda was struck in the head and then stabbed nearly 30 times by Sydney. However, when police investigated the murder, Sydney tried to claim that there had been a break-in. She told them that there had been a noise and her mum had instructed her to run away. She said she heard screaming, and when she ran back in, her mum was on the floor. Investigators saw through her lies and she eventually changed her story. At her trial, she pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Her defense argued that Sydney was suffering from undiagnosed schizophrenia. They stated that she killed while experiencing a psychotic episode. However, it is rare for people with schizophrenia to act violently. It was concluded that Sydney had been exaggerating her symptoms. She's recently been found guilty and is awaiting sentencing. This story.
Your own freaking daughter did that to you because she got kicked out of school and then just want to reveal the truth seekers. I'm telling you, man, seekers, the truth can be a powerful thing. Some people are afraid of it because of what it can do, and look what the extent people go to, man, in order not to say the truth. That's a dark case, Seekers.
It makes me sick to my stomach. This is 14-year-old Scotty Morris out of Eden, Indiana. On the night of March 16th, Scotty got into an argument with his parents after they forced him to put on this embarrassing t-shirt, and he ended up leaving the house and running away. He left the house wearing only this t-shirt, some shorts, and tennis shoes, and so a lot of people are very worried that he is being exposed to these freezing temperatures. They have not been able to find a trace of him in 6 days. Naturally, Scotty's parents have been under fire because of this bizarre, humiliating form of punishment, and you just see the pain in his eyes. It makes you wonder what's really going on in that house, why they would take a picture of him in this, like they were going to use it later as ammunition. I don't know, I don't get it. I think it's horrible. But here's what Felicia had to say to her son.
This is Felicia Morris. She is Scotty Morris's mother. We've been working with Felicia for the last 3 days, and she's been very cooperative with our investigation. We had decided that she wanted to talk to Scotty personally, so that's why we're here.
Do I hold on?
No, okay, go ahead.
Scott, I love you, and I want you to come home. And I know that you're mad and confused, and I'm afraid that you're scared of all of this. Everyone is out looking for you, and we're not trying to scare you. You're not in trouble, okay? If you're in a house and they come to you and you don't want to go out because it's the cops, reach out. Me and Dad will come get you, okay? I love you, and I just want you to come home. I need you to know that you're safe. Please just call 911. Tell anyone. I need you home. I just need you home, okay? And I love you so much, okay?
Guys, we found it.
All those things, it's like, to me, I'm like, there's a thing, I guess there's a difference between like punishment and I guess just like trying to humiliate someone. You can like humiliate the person. Like you said, you can see the pain in his eyes. That shirt dude was wearing said, "I'm a liar," or something like that. And yeah, they took a picture of that. Yeah, it seemed like you should see because that she was going to use that for later. And you see, because man, when I dive into that case, man, so we can wrap that up. I appreciate that.
It's okay, you gotta go. Hold yourself. Wait, open it. Open it. This thing.
So if you don't remember this story, back in 2020, a young woman and her group of friends were filming a TikTok video while they were using the app Randonautica. Now, if you don't know what Randonautica is, it's an app where you put in some sort of an intention, like scary, and it gives you a set of coordinates to go on some sort of little mini adventure. And on that day, those people had randomly gone out on a Randonautica adventure and had been sent to those coordinates where they discovered suitcases. And inside of those suitcases, shockingly, were 2 sets of human remains. Eventually, those remains were identified as belonging to Jessica Lewis and Austin Wenner. They were 2 locals who lived in the Seattle area, and they had gone missing prior to this discovery. After some investigation, it was revealed that these 2 had gotten themselves involved in some sort of criminal activities, but still the question remained, who had killed them? Well, it was this man, 65-year-old Michael Dudley, a landlord in the Seattle area. As it turns out, he was the landlord for the 2 victims, and some sort of altercation had occurred on June 9th, 2020. On that day, according to further investigation, Michael Dudley had gotten into an argument with Jessica and Austin. And after this argument, he went upstairs to the bedroom that Austin and Jessica were renting. He shot them both to death, most likely for not paying rent and being involved in this criminal activity that they were bringing into his home. But disturbingly, Michael then took this a step further, and instead of just burying their bodies somewhere, he decided to dismember them. That's right, he then dismembered these 2 adult human bodies, stuffed them into suitcases, and tried to dispose of them in 2 different waterways in the Seattle area. Now, Michael was eventually caught and arrested for this crime, and eventually after the trial, he was sentenced to 46 years in prison. And with him being 65 years old already, this is practically a death sentence. I just remember seeing this video when it was first released and it was making its rounds on social media and thinking that can't possibly be true. But in this case, the actual reality of the situation was darker than any sort of fictional situation I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, we need to look out for that. Randonautica? Once again.
Did you know that Gino D'Acampo actually served time in prison? Many people in the UK absolutely love Gino, who is well known for appearing on daytime television. However, many people don't know that he does have a criminal past. This true crime case honestly reads like a bizarre fan fiction. In 1998, way before he ever appeared on ITV's This Morning, Gino was 21 years old. He was an unknown waiter living in North London. He broke into the home of well-known 80s singer Paul Young. He was known for having hits such as Wherever I Lay My Hat. Gino stole Paul's guitar collection, which was reportedly worth around £4,000. He also stole his platinum disc. Police investigating the crime found that Gino had actually unknowingly left his DNA at the crime scene. He dropped a cigarette butt with his DNA on it. They were able to match this DNA to Gino, and he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Gino actually reached out to Paul personally to apologise to him just prior to entering the I'm a Celebrity jungle back in 2009. Gino stated that he was involved with the wrong people back then and was on the wrong path.
This is
Never know anybody's path, Seekers. Past.
Have been missing from Ferrum, Virginia since September 5th. But despite Virginia police saying that Lauren and her 3 children have been missing for over 2 weeks, her husband remains unconcerned and maintains that this isn't the case. 30-year-old Lauren and her 3 kids, 7-year-old Benjamin, 5-year-old Hannah, and 2-year-old Elijah, were last seen in their home in Ferrum, Virginia on September 5th. That day, Lauren missed a scheduled court appearance in Franklin County Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court. A missing persons investigation was initiated after Lauren did not appear for her rescheduled court appearance on September 13th. It's not clear why exactly Lauren was due in court, but police have said that juvenile records are confidential. Lauren's family has not heard from her since September 5th. A news release said, quote, "There has been no reported contact with Lauren since September 5th or 6th when she stated that she was in New York visiting family. This was the last time Lauren's mother spoke to her, and she said that Lauren's bank account hasn't shown any recent activity, and her cell phone last pinged on September 7th in Lexington, Virginia." Investigators later confirmed that Lauren and the kids had been in Litchfield, Illinois, but they haven't been able to directly talk to them, so they are still considered missing. Despite concerns from authorities and Lauren's family, her husband and the children's father, Jordan Cook, is not concerned, saying his wife and his children are not missing. Jordan was in attendance at the family's recent rescheduled court appearance on September 20th, but Lauren was not there. But Jordan Cook said, "I have no reason to be concerned about their safety or well-being. I've heard from my wife, and I'm sure she and my children are doing well. We ask that our family's privacy be respected at this time." But Sergeant Megan Houston said that until Lauren and the kids appear in person to a law enforcement officer, they are still regarded as missing. She said Lauren and the 3 children will remain in local and national databases as missing until a law enforcement agency is able to lay eyes on them to ensure that they are okay and not under any duress. She said this is the typical protocol for when someone is entered in as missing. A reported phone call, phone ping, photo, video, audio, etc. is not sufficient to clear the missing persons alert out of the system. According to Lauren's mother, Lauren is also 5 months pregnant. Lauren and her children may be traveling in a 2013 blue Chrysler van with Virginia license plates. Anyone with any information about Lauren or her children should contact the Franklin County Sheriff's Office.
Now y'all, Jaylen's family rushed to be by her side at Grady Hospital. They learned that Jaylen was shot twice in her face and she was shot in her back and her spine. Now this ended up severing her spine. Now Jaylen was also placed on a ventilator because of all of the swelling and made it hard for her to breathe. Now y'all, this 24-year-old who had just had a baby not even 6 weeks ago was in the hospital fighting for her life. Now Jaylen could not speak, but she was writing things on this board, and one of the things that she told her parents was, "I want to survive." Jaylen also started to recall everything that was going on the day that she got shot. She remembered him saying that she shouldn't have came there and that she was gonna die. She recalled zip ties, and she saying that after she got shot, she just kept fighting because she wanted to live for Josiah. Now Jaylen's mother did learn what actually happened that day. Jaylen is saying that when she got there, he had zip ties and he tried to zip tie her. Jaylen then tried to make a run for it when she realized that this man is going to try to kill me. Now, as Jaylen is running for her life with her baby, she's huddled over her baby. Jamar is chasing her, and that's when he shoots her in her back. So Jaylen's still fighting for her life. The baby ends up dropping, and that's when she's trying to crawl to the door. He then stands over her, shooting her 2 times in the face. Now, this is at the point where he thought that Jaylen was dead, because after that, that's when he turned the gun on himself. But Jaylen was not dead, and she was able to crawl out into the yard where a neighbor saw her. Y'all, this girl literally got shot in her face, her back, and she was still able to crawl out and help herself and her son. Now, although Jaylen has a long road to recovery ahead of her, she is expected to survive. Now, y'all, it is so important that Jaylen's story gets heard, because it might be another young lady out there that's in her situation. Y'all, this man was very possessive, very abusive, always checking her location, always just doing things to see where she was. But never in a million years did they think that he would try to kill her. And not only that, you guys have to think about, she was holding his baby when all of this took place. So not only was he trying to kill her, he could have killed his own child as well. Now, there is not a lot of justice that could be done, because Jamar did end up killing himself. But Jaylen and her family, they want to get this story out there because maybe it can touch somebody and maybe it could save a life. As of right now, Jaylen's family's main priority is her recovery and the raising of Josiah. Now, there is a GoFundMe that you guys can donate, or if you just share it, that is fine, for Jaylen and her son Josiah and for her recovery. And they are also having a basketball fundraiser on September 30th from 10 to 2. Now, this will take place in Griffin, Georgia, and it is taking place at the First Assembly God Church at the gym. Jaylen is a beautiful mother. She's a survivor, and y'all, she deserves all the love and peace in the world. My heart goes out to her huge family, because through all of this, they have stepped up and they are taking care of Josiah. Not only that, they are also taking care of Jaylen. Jaylen is in a wheelchair now. She would need all the help that she can get. You guys, please make sure you blow this up. Share this. Maybe somebody will see this video and they'll leave a bad situation that they're in. Or maybe somebody's going through a similar situation that they're on the fence about, and this video could help them. Justice for Jaylen, and y'all make sure you blow this one up.
75
Seekers, you guys, man. Justice for Jaylen, like they said. Let's blow this video up, Seekers, man, because that was actually, she's a survivor. To survive all that, man, like she literally had a crawl at the end. That's a different type of strength, Seekers. Truly. You guys made it with me to the end of the video. You're a real one, Seekers. Seeking the truth, supporting the channel. I really appreciate that, man. Like I said, tell me how you guys like this audio setting, man. You guys have noticed in the past couple of videos, I'm like pausing them less, man. I'm trying to keep it down to like 3 or 4 pauses, man. I'm just trying to let the video play out because that's what you guys want. I want to give you guys the best type of content that you guys want. You guys gonna catch it in the next one, man. Like I said, gonna close out April strong. They're going into May even stronger, Seekers. Let's go. Blow this video up. Peace, Seekers. What's up, Seekers? Welcome back to the channel. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing alright, man. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we break down scary and creepy videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel. Just like I said, when I thank the Seekers who's been tapping in with us, man, I greatly appreciate the support. Like I said, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, hit that post notification bell, hit that like button. That's how the Seekers can grow. Once again, I changed the audio settings because you guys haven't seen, you guys can't hear. So, man, like I said, bear with me when I work through these changes, you guys. I'm always trying to improve the channel. So, I changed the audio today. Let me know how it sounds. Let's do what we do best. Let's seek the truth.
Pierre Musca pretended to be pregnant to try and save a failing relationship, but when she realized she didn't have a real baby to deliver, she turned to desperate measures. Thank you to Lifetime for partnering with me, and here's a quick clip from their movie Stolen Baby, The Murder of Heidi Broussard.
I'm pregnant. Say something.
Well, you should stay then.
What do you mean?
It means you don't need to move out, at least until the baby comes, right?
Well, I mean, I can see if my other place is still available.
No, please, please stay. I want to make sure the baby has everything. Okay?
So you're not mad?
Mad? No. No, this is not how I would have planned this, but, hey, I mean, I've always wanted a family.
You can watch this movie and other ripped from the headlines movies for free all of April at mylifetime.com/watchripped.
Should we check that out, Seekers?
AI to create fake photos of a murderer. I'd heard of this case before, and watching the documentary last weekend, it seems like Netflix had gotten exclusive photos. What Jennifer did is a true crime documentary on Netflix about the case of Jennifer Pan. She hired a hitman to kill her parents and hide her double life. Several articles online point out these photos. It seems like she's missing fingers, which is a trademark of AI. And I also just noticed that in this left photo, her top teeth do not line up with the bottom row. It's like one tooth is behind. And these photos did stick out to me while watching the documentary. I was familiar with the case, but I feel like this was the main photo that you'd see. And a lot of sources online seem to just rely on her interrogation photos in this white t-shirt with a braid. But while watching it, I assumed that they had gotten these photos from a friend. Because they did have interviews with friends of Jennifer's as well as the investigators, and I did think the documentary was good overall. But what's the point of this? I mean, looking at it now, it does look very, like, airbrushed, to say the least. So, you know, at best, I think the photos were very blurry or poor quality, and they just enhanced them, and that's why they have this overall fake look. Or maybe this is just one of the ways that AI is going to change the media we consume. Personally, I do think it's very odd to create AI for true crime, because those two things are just like complete opposite ends of the spectrum. But if you look online, there's really not that many photos of Jennifer, but again, Netflix has a lot more resources than I do. I don't know if the story will get big enough to where they like have to make a statement on it, but let me know what you guys think in the comments.
These are
Seekers. Was that like a fake picture, man? I've been hearing some of that controversy. Yeah, you guys know how AI and technology, like, it got that advanced where you can just make fake pictures, and it's in a documentary. And like she said, you know, Netflix has way more resources than that, so I don't know why they just fall back on that. Scary time we live in, Seekers. Nothing we see is real on the internet.
Scary urban legends that were proven to be real, part 1. Up first is the Candy Lady. In the early 1900s, children in an unnamed small town in Texas started to go missing out of nowhere. And every single one of the residents blamed it on the Candy Lady. The story says she would go around leaving candy on kids' windows, and she would eventually lure the children out with notes attached to the candy saying they will get more candy. The story started getting extremely popular when a farmer found rotten teeth in his farm, and also a young boy's dead body with his pockets stuffed with candy. So if you live in Texas, you better watch out for the Candy Lady.
The Candy Lady, Seekers. Should we look into that? These urban legends, man. There's always a story behind them, Seekers.
Would do something like this to my beautiful baby. She hurt nobody. She harmed nobody.
A devastating crime has struck the community of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A 33-year-old man named Maxwell Anderson has been charged with the murder and dismemberment of 19-year-old Sadie Robinson. Anderson, a former high school football star and son of a local millionaire insurance broker, allegedly took Sad out on a date before killing her. Sade was reported missing when she didn't show up to her job at a local pizza shop the day after her date with Anderson. Vehicle fire responders discovered that her car had been set on fire and went on to discover parts of her dismembered body in the park. As the former football star's residence was investigated, investigators found clear signs of a crime. Blood traces on a bed and walls leading to his basement, along with several gasoline canisters. He was arrested on a traffic stop later that day. Not only had Anderson worked in the insurance business with his father, but he also described himself as a bartender on social media. It was in this profession that he met Sade, as he had previously worked at the restaurant they went to on their date. A former co-worker described Anderson as erratic, often getting very drunk at work. Another former friend of Anderson's mentioned an unusual occurrence when he visited Anderson's home and found a massive hole he was digging in his backyard. Robinson was a beloved figure in her community and was working toward a degree in criminal justice at the Milwaukee Area Technical College. Anderson's history includes past convictions for battery, domestic abuse, and drunk driving. As the community comes to terms with such a heinous act, we mourn alongside Sadie's family, friends, and all those who loved her.
The girl you are looking at...
Seekers, you can't even go on a simple date anymore without an incident and a tragedy. That's how you gotta watch the people you decide to spend your time with, because you never know the dark side they have behind them. Like, he had a history of that. Obviously she didn't know, but she met him there too, and like they were known in the community, and he's the son of a local millionaire. Stuff like that just happened. Twists and turns.
And has no idea that she's about to take the most unexplainable photo in history. This is 5-year-old Elizabeth, and this is her father Jim, who instructed her to sit down so that way he could take a picture of her in her brand new dress. He took a total of 3 pictures while his wife and his other daughter stood right beside him. When the photos were developed, Jim found on the second photo there's a large humanoid figure standing behind him that resembles a spacesuit. The couple came out and said, "We were in an empty field, there was no sort of bystanders, and I think we would have known if somebody was standing behind our daughter." Jim had the photo examined by Kodak Lab, and they said the anomaly in the picture is original negative, which means this thing behind her is physically present there, like it's real. This picture was taken in 1964. Obviously there was no sort of Photoshop, but if you think that's the craziest part, listen to this. This all made headlines, and Kodak Labs offered $1 million to anybody who could disprove this photo. And to this day, it has never been paid out. More recently, people have been saying they have debunked this by saying it's really her mother standing behind her. And I don't know, her mother was wearing a blue dress that day, and they basically said the overexposure from the light made it look white. Here are the pictures side by side, and you kind of let me know what you guys think. So is this Jim's wife in the background, or is this something we've never seen? Make sure to like and follow for tomorrow's video.
Did you know Gordon Ramsay survived a terrifying murder attempt? Gordon Ramsay is a British celebrity chef, well known for TV shows such as Hell's Kitchen and Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. He's been given a total of 17 Michelin stars. He's arguably one of the most influential chefs in the world. However, his life was nearly taken in a shocking incident in Costa Rica in 2011. Gordon had been filming for a Channel 4 show called Shark Bait. The show was about the fishing industry, and Gordon and his team were trying to shed light on the cruel practice of shark hunting. Smugglers would cut sharks' fins off and leave them to die, and needless to say, Gordon was really against this. In a terrifying ordeal during the filming of the program, Gordon and the crew were confronted by a gang involved in illegal substances. The gang poured a barrel of petrol all over Gordon and his team and threatened their life. They were then held at gunpoint and told that if they didn't stop filming, they would be killed. Local police showed up and advised Gordon and his crew to leave the country.
I never knew that, man. Gordon Ramsay, yeah, you know he's one of the most influential chefs in the whole world, Seekers, but to hear that, yeah, he tried to stop some injustice. Proves the type of person he was, man. They had him at gun too, and they just had to leave. It ain't worth it on your life, Seekers. That's the first time I'm hearing about that. I think that would be like in the headlines or something. I'm out. A damn skinwalker? You don't do those, Seekers.
150 miles away to celebrate her 18th birthday with her boyfriend. When Cootie returned home after almost 6 days, her baby wasn't waking up, and sadly nothing could be done to save Asaya.
Have you seen a guy in a picture that shows up with an upside down face? What are you talking about here? There's an urban legend, so in pictures of tragedy, there's always a guy somewhere in the background with an upside down face. What? Like an upside down face. This is shown through history, fam. Trust me. So this whole thing started with an artist. It's a guy with an upside down face with a big grin, and every time he's shown in pictures, it's always in tragedy because he loves feeding off people's bad energy and traumas. So I'm gonna show you a few pictures.
Is it like popular pictures?
Popular pictures. This is very old. In a car crash, who do you see?
Okay. Wait, what?
Next one. A car crash. This is the exact picture. Look.
Troll.
In a New Year's party, what do you see in the background? A guy with an upside down face.
What happened at that party?
The same party, that night, a guy passed away. Last one. Boom. You see trail tracks, right?
Yeah.
The upside down face guy. We're going to have to look into that.
This is really a headline you'd only see coming from Texas. 10-year-old boy reportedly admits to fatally shooting a stranger in the head back in 2022. And this is also while the man was sleeping. The victim behind me is Brandon Raspberry. Brandon was employed at an RV trailer company, and when he didn't show up to work, his boss got worried and went to his trailer to see what was going on. When he went inside, he found Raspberry just dead there. When deputies arrived at the scene, they found he had one single gunshot wound to the head, and his body had been dead for about 2 days before anyone found him. Now, this happened 2 years ago in 2022. Listen to this. Now, just a week ago, a principal reported a 10-year-old kid saying that he wanted to kill and hurt another student on the bus. A deputy just came and talked to the kid asking what's going on. That's when the child admitted to shooting somebody 2 years ago. They took him to the station to interview him, and he went in detail about how he shot a man in a trailer. This was Brandon Raspberry. Apparently, the 10-year-old grabbed the gun from his grandfather's RV. The child also said he didn't know Brandon personally, so he just shot this guy randomly while he was sleeping. So at the time of the shooting, the kid was about 7 years old. Because of laws, you can't really charge a child until they're 10, so he's being charged for threatening another kid on the school bus, but he can't be charged for this apparently. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Holy crap.
Seekers, man, it seems they just be getting younger and younger. Like, they couldn't even get him for what he did. They had to get him for a completely different charge. But I'm like, he's 7 years old, that damn young? Talking about he wants to hurt somebody? He did it too, man. That's what people, they gotta put up their possessions, because if somebody else gets a hold of it, they can do the unthinkable, Seekers.
Y'all seen this story? This is Erica De Souza Nunez from Rio de Janeiro, and earlier this week she rolled her deceased uncle into a local bank in a wheelchair to try to secure a loan. Now, behind me is the deceased uncle. I'm not going to show him here. However, you can see the video of this on TMZ. In the video, you can see she's clearly having to hold his head up. She continues to talk to him, asking him if he understands, if he can hear her. At one point, she even attempts to place a pen in his hand so that he can sign this loan for her. Of course, bank authorities knew that something was wrong, so they did call the police. The victim was identified as Paulo Roberto Braga. And they say that he had been dead at least for several hours before she wheeled him into this bank to attempt to get this $3,400 loan. Erica, the niece, may be charged with theft through fraud, embezzlement, and abuse of a corpse. Now authorities are trying to decide the cause of death of this man and if he has any other family members or if anyone else is involved.
Things people do for money, Seekers. He was gone, but she still wanted that money. $3,400 too? That's a small amount.
Never do this. This man was walking down the street when he encountered a very strange woman, not knowing who she really was. I'll tell you who she is in this video. But first know that I can only protect those who have commented their first name, liked, and favorited the video by clicking on share, and then more. If you see a strange application, it means you are being spied on. This woman is part of a group called Legion of the Dark Veil. It's an organization that includes Kaylee and Kaylee, Brim and Scan, or Bundy as mentioned in my previous video. It's an organization that aims to terrorize our world by taking control through the power of certain demons from the other world. They are increasingly arriving on Earth, and it's chilling. At the moment, they are in what is called the recruitment phase, meaning they are trying to rally as many people as possible to their cause, to form formidable army. And the most terrifying thing about all this is that they can influence the responses of the people they wish to recruit through their gifts from the other world. So if you ever encounter them, be careful because your choice will not be your own.
Alright, I want to talk about the whole Watcher situation and why this is a really dumb, stupid idea. So for those of you who don't know Watcher, it's BuzzFeed Unsolved, but without the BuzzFeed, independent, ran by the same team of people. They've been back on YouTube for about a year or two now, and recently they announced that they're leaving YouTube, which is a bit of a clickbait title. It's not as egregious as people are making it out to be. They are actually going to continue uploading on YouTube. They're just uploading one episode per season of whatever show they're making for free, and then charging a subscription on their own website for you to watch the rest. Now, this is a model that works. Look at Dropout, for example, which we'll get to more in a minute here. But the way they are handling this is the absolute worst way you could possibly do this. Now, Clay, why do you say that? Well, good question. And the reason is expectations. Now, in an interview with Smosh, Rhett and Link talked about how they set expectations when they launched Good Mythical Morning so that they would not hit any road bumps as far as doing sponsorship deals or things like that. Because back in the day, people were not receptive to people having YouTube sponsors at all. If you had an ad break in your own video, people would crucify you. But they made sure that on the first episode of Good Mythical Morning, no matter what, they would take whatever sponsor offered. Because that way, the audience knew, hey, this is a sponsored show. They're going to have sponsors regularly. They can't get mad about it because there's suddenly something different. That's just the expectation from the start. Now, as for Watcher, they've been doing this stuff for free for years now. They have a Patreon, they do sponsorships, they have a whole podcast and everything. They got all of the money trains coming in from YouTube that everyone expects and accepts. Which is why this move is so stupid. They have already set the expectation of, this is what you get, and now they're going, actually, give me some money. Give me a little more money, please. But here's the thing. Those expectations wouldn't be in place if they just did this from the beginning. That's why Dropout works and is so successful, because when they rebranded and relaunched everything, they made it very clear what their model was from the very start. Hell, I know people who pay for Dropout. I've thought about paying for Dropout. I did the free trial and I liked it, but you know. But that's why I don't think this is going to work out. The really poor launch of this is what's making this whole thing become an uphill battle for them that I don't think they're going to win. The really poor announcement, the misleading title leading to a bunch of misinformation getting spread, the lack of directly addressing fans at all. Hell, they have, I think it's like 5,700 plus people that already give them money monthly on their Patreon that they did not tell about this at all. Again, not because this model doesn't work, but because they've already missed their opportunity to launch this without creating problems for themselves.
I think he was sitting here on the ass seekers, man, when they're doing that rebrand. I haven't seen a couple articles about that. Yeah, it's like you're gonna expect people to pay for something that was for free or something, or that they was already paid for on Patreons. It's like, I don't think that's a good freaking business model. It's just gonna, like I said, upset fans and their expectations. Like I said, if they would have did that when they rebranded in the beginning, maybe, like I said, it could have worked. But I'm telling you, man, things people do for money, and they have all that support on Patreons and stuff like that. So you already know they got probably like a good chunk of money coming in, but maybe it's not enough, and they just need some more. But I'm telling you, man, the things people do for money, it's crazy, Seekers.
Write them a $100 check for a pack of gum to give you back $98 or whatever. You could go around to like a grocery store, drop me off at the front door, I'd run in, find something real quick, at the line, whatever. Pay for that, they give you back the $98. So you're making almost $100 every trip, where you go around to 10, 15 grocery stores that day. Turn around sometimes on a profitable day, feeling energetic, go around to the next shift and do it again. You know what I mean? And back in those days, they didn't quite catch up with those checks in their systems like they would now.
Could take a week.
But you could even go back in those days to like Sears, buy a VCR for $150, take it back 2 days later, and they would give you cash back. You give them the receipt. They would call it check cash.
I had a buddy who would literally walk right in the door, grab a couple of gallons of paint, turn right around, walk 15 feet to the return desk and say, hey, look, we got the wrong color. I need my money back. Do you have the receipt? He go, I don't have the receipt. They go, okay. They give him cash.
Yeah.
Obviously, Scotty's didn't make it very long.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, we'll give you a gift card, or we'll put it back on the card, or you don't have the receipt. Oh, no, you get a card.
This is the worst thing that ever happened in a concert, and whatever you do, don't look up the video. This is a photograph from a packed out concert, and playing on the stage is the LA-based band called the Great Whites. It's a late evening on February 20th, 2003, and the band is performing at the station in Warwick, Rhode Island. Just after 11 p.m. during the opening song of Great White's set, the band pyrotechnics went off as planned. And very quickly, everything started to go horribly wrong. Almost immediately, the foam on top of the stage and the walls caught fire, and the flames erupted all around. The fire spread quickly, way too quickly for anybody to react. Smoke filled the entire venue, and the band was able to get out through the stage exits. But this left hundreds of audience members panicking and clambering all over each other in a desperate bid to get fresh air from outside, since the whole room was filling with smoke. In the video, you see people screaming and being crushed. It's honestly horrific, and I don't recommend looking it up. Within 6 minutes of the pyrotechnics going off, the building was in flames. There were 4 exits for the venue, but almost all of the crowd made a break for the main entrance, the one that they all came in from. This resulted in a massive human wall of people falling on top of each other and crushing each other and blocking a lot of people inside with the flames. It would later turn out the venue was overcrowded beyond its legal limit. It had no fixed sprinkler system, and although they had a fire alarm, it wasn't connected to the local fire department. According to survivors, it's one of the most horrifying things they had ever seen. People piling up on each other, crushing anyone who was unlucky enough to be below. Half-burnt human beings being pulled from the flames. It was snowing also, so survivors were rubbing snow onto the burnt survivors. In total, 100 people lost their lives and more than 200 people were injured. Ty Longley, who was the guitarist for Great White, also died. The tour manager who set off the pyrotechnics was charged in the involuntary manslaughter of 100 people and sentenced to 15 years in prison, although he was released early as the victims' families appealed on his behalf. The owners of the venue pleaded no contest and they faced similar jail terms. This photograph shows the band and crowd of people completely unaware of the horrors that are about to happen to all of them. I don't recommend watching the video or looking it up because, as I already said, it really is horrifying.
On the morning of
Seekers, I can't believe that the guy who set it up, he was the one who faced the consequences, Seekers, and not the person, the people behind the band setting it up. And like I said, the people, they didn't have that venue. It's the people who had that venue, they should have, I think they should have faced the most consequences, Seekers, because it was packed, they didn't have no sprinklers and stuff like that. And it resulted in a lot of people, man, freaking not being able to come home because people want to cut off, like I said, the details and stuff like that just so they can save some extra money or something. Man, that venue places, man, gotta be careful, Seekers. If something looks sketchy, don't even go. It's not even worth it.
June 9th, 2022, an elderly woman named Maya Burma was collecting water from a well in her village of Rapai, which is in eastern India. As she did so, there were all kinds of bystanders, and they watched as this lone Asian elephant comes walking out of the woods. And as soon as it saw Maya, it just charged directly for her, and only her. And it ran her down, knocked her to the ground, it picked her up with its trunk, and then slams her on the ground and began to trample her. And of course, everybody is yelling and screaming, but that's about all they can do because this is an adult elephant. You're not going to fight it off. So they're basically just forced to watch as this thing tramples her into the dirt. And when this elephant felt like it was done, it just turned around and walked right back into the woods without going after anybody else. It just left. But little did anybody know, this elephant was actually not done with Maya by a long shot. But when it left, they went and gathered her up, and they ran her as quickly as they could to the nearest hospital, but by the time they got there, she was pronounced deceased. Now, in this part of India, it's customary to cremate your dead and to do it quickly. So the hospital released her body back to her family and the villagers, who took her back to Rapai, and they built this giant funeral pyre, which is just a pile of sticks and logs, and placed her body on top of it to burn her. And as her family are giving their last rites in their funeral, they see, presumably, this same elephant come out of the woods again. And they all scatter, thinking that this thing is going to come back and hurt somebody else. But it's not coming after anybody else. It's coming after Maya again. It runs up to her funeral pyre, and of course, she is deceased. But all the same, this elephant picks up her body with its trunk and slams her into the dirt again and begins trampling her again. And when it does this, it's trumpeting and making all these vocalizations, which seemingly call the rest of its herd, a further 11 elephants, come out of the woods. And when they do, they start doing damage to some of the village homes. But what's interesting is they damaged 3 homes, but they only completely destroyed 1. And the one they destroyed happened to belong to Maya. Not only did they destroy her home, but they also killed all of her goats. And that was the only thing that they killed. They didn't go after any other animals or any other people. And the villagers, they were backed way off, and when they thought all the elephants had left, they came back to see the damage that had been done, and all the elephants had left, except for the initial one that came from Maya's body. It still had her body on the ground, and it was still trampling it. But eventually that elephant also left. But they captured video of all of this thing coming back and destroying Maya's body. And when that video hit the internet and went viral on Twitter for a while, people were just really confused as to why this elephants who are not known to be violent animals, did this to this person. And people started to come up with all kinds of different theories, like she was a poacher or she was working with poachers. But it's important to note there's no real evidence to this. That was all started on Twitter. We don't know why this elephant had it out against Maya, but clearly it did.
Seekers, man. I'm gonna need some of my fellow seekers to look into that case, because it's like they just came back to keep attacking mine. Like, something had to have happened. Like I said, I don't know if she did something to a group of elephants or something like that. But for an elephant to like specifically target her and her alone, that's very weird, Seekers, and bizarre. First time hearing about that. Well, you guys got any theories and stuff? Like you said, maybe she was working with poachers or something else that happened and went down. That's what made the elephant target her. He even called his herd, and they just destroyed the village. But like you said, they only destroyed her home completely out of everybody. So there can't be a coincidence. This like is lining up too many times, Seekers. Guys, that's it, Seekers, man, for this video for you guys today, man. Once again, tell me in the comment section down below, guys, that you guys like the audio change, because like I said, I switched it up. You guys been saying the volume is low, man. I'm trying to make the channel the best for you guys, the best quality. So I really appreciate the support, man. We're gonna keep going, we're gonna keep grinding. May's gonna be a good month, bro, but we're gonna continue on focusing on April, closing out this month strong. You guys gonna catch in the next one. I'm out. Peace, Seekers. What's up, Seekers? Welcome back to the channel, man. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing all right, man. If you guys are brand new to the channel, man, what we do is, man, we break down scary and creepy videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos to IG videos, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank the Seekers, man, who's been tapping in with us, man, subscribing to the channel, hitting that post notification bell, hitting that like button, man. You guys are growing the Seekers, man. Like I said, we're a community. If you guys just follow those 3 simple steps, we can grow to bigger and better heights. I kind of fixed the volume for you guys because a couple of you guys said you guys couldn't hear the volume over the past couple of videos, so I fixed that. And like I said, guys, the mic is coming. It's on its way, so guys don't have to worry about that. Once I implement that to the channel, just taking off. Or like I said, step by step, man, we're going to keep upgrading our channel. Seek the truth today, Seekers.
Real photo of the woman who was frozen solid and lived. This happened back in the 80s. Her car got stuck in a ditch and she started walking to go get home. In the morning, they found her body frozen solid in a cattle ranch's porch in negative 22-degree weather. Her body temperature was so low that it didn't even register on a thermometer. And on top of that, her body was so frozen that the needles couldn't penetrate through the ice. Damn. They didn't think that she was still with us, but they decided to warm her up and just see if like something would happen. And somehow this actually worked and she survived. Like, this girl was put on the planet for a reason. Also, this is for educational purposes. I'm not trying to scare anybody. And, like, she was completely fine. Like, it's like this never happened to her after. Like, there weren't any lasting side effects. I'm gonna be so real with y'all. You fell for the clickbait. This is not a real photo. It would not stay on this. Like, it wouldn't stay on here if it was. Send this to a friend and see if they fall for the photo. And follow my TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for more. It really helps when you interact.
It's our case, Seekers. Like she said, she's there for a reason.
This is a story I am sure will be removed, so if you're watching this, buckle up. The year is 2009 in Woodstock, Illinois, and a man with the name of Kyle Morgan had just got done luring a homeless guy into his apartment after he promised him food, warmth, and something to drink. Being that it was in the middle of an Illinois winter, the homeless man could not pass it up. A couple weeks later, maintenance was called to Kyle's apartment after a foul odor was coming from it. They knocked, no response, and then used the master key to go inside. Upon entering, the sour smell of death smacked each of them in their face, and they saw the homeless man lying on the ground. But that wasn't it. He was slapped anywhere between 20 and 30 times. He had the number 666 carved into his forehead, as well as Uno reverse cards showing the same numbers laying on his chest, and throughout the entire apartment was satanic writings written in the victim's blood. Kyle fled but was found multiple states away after a traffic incident that led to a high-speed chase, him hitting 2 people in the process, and then detained. He pled guilty but mentally ill and only received 30 years in prison. With that being said, he's going to be released in less than 20 years.
This sick
Seekers, what do you guys think on that one? He pled guilty to insanity and only got 30 years, but they reduced that to 20. I don't know about that, Seekers, man. You meticulously planned that.
A 23-year-old woman was pretending to be 14 years old online so she could have sex with teenage boys. Folks, I typically cover horror movies. This is fucking horror. This is real life horror, okay? People are sick. Alyssa was first arrested back in November. In November is when she was first suspected of having a sexual relationship with a young boy. But while looking further into the case, detectives realized there were maybe 3 or 4 other victims around the age of 13 and 14 years old. Apparently, Alyssa was communicating to these underage boys on TikTok and Snapchat. And this is honest to God why I probably won't give my boys a cell phone until I feel it's appropriate. At that time, she was living with her parents in November with the first arrest. She was arrested last week for multiple felony charges, including sexual cyber harassment, possession of child pornography. They ordered for Alyssa not to have any electronics access while being in jail currently. Her next court appearance is April 16th. I will keep you guys updated and make sure you follow for all things spooky, because this sure as shit is spooky. And it really has me scared for our kids of this generation. Let me know your thoughts on this case in the comments.
Social media, man. It's a sickness, secrets.
The true story behind this mugshot is absolutely disturbing. This is 54-year-old Stanton Pierce, and in 2017, he was sentenced to 40 years in prison for burning a body. So Stanton had been in and out of prison in the past, but in 2016, he got mixed up in a murder. These were the 3 people that were implicated in this murder scheme. There was 37-year-old Rebecca Bond, pictured over here, who actually shot and killed the 62-year-old victim, Louise Martinez. Then there was 56-year-old Lori Stone Perry and Stanton Pierce, and these 2 were convicted of moving the body. 62-year-old Louise Martinez had been missing for a while, and eventually investigators located his burned prize vehicle out in the middle of nowhere. And when I say out in the middle of nowhere, his burned car was really way out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. Obviously, they knew something had happened to Louise, but they didn't know exactly what had happened. Well, Louise's body was eventually found also burned in a local cemetery, and from that point on, investigators knew that they were looking at a hardcore murder. Eventually, through investigation, investigators were able to determine that Stanton Pierce had helped clean up the crime scene and had helped move the body to that cemetery. He had collected shell casings after the victim was shot and killed, he had removed bullets from a wall that had gotten lodged in there, and he had even cleaned up blood from the surrounding area. And to finish the story out, Stanton Pierce was sentenced to 40 years in prison. He's going to be over 90 years old when he's finally released.
This is why you have to be careful in national parks. So in 2016, a man completely dissolved in a hot spring in Yellowstone. A lot of people don't realize these hot springs are near boiling temperatures, and a lot of them are severely acidic. And falling in happens more than we realize. It terrifies me so much that I made an entire podcast episode about it that's going up tonight. So it's believed that a 23-year-old man and his sister went into Yellowstone to go hot potting, which is when people secretly hang out in the cooler hot springs. It's like really not allowed in the park. His sister was filming him as he went over to one of the hot springs to reach down and touch it to test the temperature, and that's when he tumbled forward and fell in. A rescue team was able to get there, and they saw his body floating in the pool because a fall like that kills you immediately. But a thunderstorm was coming in, so they were going to have to wait a while to get him out. And by the time they got there, there was nothing left. And unfortunately, this does happen more than we realize. Check out tonight's episode if you're interested in hearing more.
This substitute teacher was found in the back of her car with no clothes on with one of her students. This is Erin Ward. She's a substitute teacher from Nebraska. This happened on April 13th in the early hours, around 1 to 3 a.m. The police got a call about a suspicious vehicle parked at the dead end of a road. At the scene, deputies found 2 people in the back of a gray Honda Pilot, Erin Ward and her student. The 17-year-old student reportedly jumped in the driver's seat and sped off, crashing into a yard nearby. He then got out of the car and fled on foot, naked. Deputies then got a hold of Erin Ward in the backseat, putting her clothes on. The vehicle was apparently owned by Ward and Ward's husband. Yes, she's married. She then admitted to deputies that she was having an affair with her high school student. Deputies then located the student. He had socks, a shirt, and boxers on. The officers transported the teen to a safe place to receive medical care and be interviewed. They did the same thing with Erin Ward. Erin Ward was then booked into the county jail. The principal of the school then put out a message. This substitute teacher will not be returning to our school for the 2023 to 2024 school year. I mean, duh. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
This guy.
You're seeing this happen too often, Seekers, man, with these teachers. They really need to be like, if they need to switch up the system or something, man, to catch them before they even enter the school, Seekers.
Kai is the real Humpty Dumpty, and his story is much darker than you think. Deep in the eerie town of Puddlebrook, Kentucky, resided Gilbert Eggman, a man plagued by misfortune. His tale took a sinister turn when he joined the construction crew. Perched atop a towering brick wall on his very first day, 3 co-workers, fueled by malevolence, sent the ladder crashing down. Gilbert's pleas for help fell on deaf ears. Desperate to rescue him, the trio resorted to a crane. But destiny had other plans. The crane, guided by an unseen force, struck Gilbert, sending him hurtling to a grim demise. The town whispered of Gilbert's curse. In the following months, darkness consumed Puddlebrook. One by one, the 3 construction workers met their untimely ends, each death shrouded in mystery. Gilbert's curse, it seemed, had unleashed its wrath upon them, becoming an urban legend in the small town.
This is a good reminder to double check every single nook and cranny in your house. Because in 2019, this couple came home after a week-long vacation to see that there was a stranger living in their home. And he had most likely been living there while they were also in the house. Also, if you like these kinds of stories, you'll like tonight's episode. Upon arriving home after a week away, Josh Campbell tried the front door of his house, but there was a stranger on the inside pulling it closed. That stranger was 26-year-old Ezekiel Zayas, and yes, this is a video he left on their personal computers. The 2 were able to call the police and eventually get him out of the house, but that's when they saw all of the terrifying stuff he had been up to in the home. He also left them videos on their computers that included incredibly personal information that they had only shared with each other, meaning that he had been listening to their conversations. But the worst part was the knives. Ezekiel had left notes in the house about surgeries that he wanted to perform on the family, like a hand transplant. And when the couple went into their bedroom, they saw that there were knives and other utensils all around the bed. It seemed like he was preparing to do some sort of operation on them. Frogging stories are absolutely terrifying, and I don't want to give too much away, but you might be spooked by tonight's episode.
Morbid Facts, Part 238. When actor Peter O'Toole cut off the tip of his finger in a boating accident, he dropped it in some brandy before putting it back into place and wrapping it with a bandage. But upon removing the bandage weeks later, he found out he'd put it back on the wrong way. During production for the 1969 movie Shark, a stuntman was killed on camera by a shark that was supposed to be sedated. After the production company used the man's death to promote the film, director Sam Fuller quit. When you develop scurvy, your body is extremely deficient in vitamin C, which is used to make the collagen that holds your skin together. Because of this, scurvy will cause your old scars to reopen. In 1904, a Swedish sailor named Carl Emil Peterson shipwrecked on a cannibalistic island in Papua New Guinea. A savage tribe carried Carl to their king, whose daughter instantly fell in love with him. 3 years later, Carl eventually married the king's daughter, and once the king died, Carl became king of the island himself.
Whoa, Seekers, what the heck? A real life king.
You have to hear this. Imaginary friends might not be so imaginary. A 15-year-old girl named Madison said that when she was 3, she had an imaginary friend named Kellum. Her mom, Kelly, didn't think much of it, but gradually Kellum started to feel less and less imaginary. Madison said that Kellum was a tall man in his 40s who was always wearing work clothes. One day, Kelly caught Madison singing a song called Daisy Bell, a song that she had no way of learning otherwise. And when she asked her where she had learned the song, Madison said that Kellum had taught it to her. Kelly still wasn't spooked though, but things started to get creepier and creepier. Madison said that at first her imaginary friend Kellum was very nice, but as time passed, he wasn't so nice anymore. She said that he would start to yell at her, tap on her windows, and keep her up all night. He would always want to talk and play and would just never let her go to sleep. She became very afraid of Kellum, and she told her mom that his face just doesn't look the same anymore. She said that he started to look sick and his face became skinnier and his eyes became sunken in. All of this was very scary to her, but then one night things escalated to a whole new level. Madison said that one night Kellum was being very aggressive and he walked up to her and grabbed her by the wrist. She screamed for her mom and Kelly came and picked up her daughter. The windows in Madison's room were blowing like there was a big gust of wind, but to her surprise, the windows were actually closed. Kelly eventually contacted her father, who was a pastor in a Pentecostal church. He anointed the house with crosses of oil, and Kellum never came back. But that's not all. Later on, Kelly did a property search and found out that the house adjacent to theirs was bought in 1941 by a man named Callum Beasley.
Morbid Facts, Part 237.
Is that like a movie or something?
In 2014, an Indian soccer player named Peter Byaksung Zula died after scoring a goal. He was trying to celebrate the goal by doing a somersault, but landed awkwardly on his neck and died in the hospital a few hours later. It's almost certain that the astronauts survived the initial Challenger explosion, only to die upon impact with the water. At least 3 of the crew's emergency oxygen tanks were manually switched on after the capsule broke apart from the rest of the shuttle. In 1950, Timothy Evans was executed for the murder of his wife and infant daughter. Evans had always insisted that his downstairs neighbor John Christie was the real killer, but Christie was the chief prosecution witness during Evans's trial and was able to sway the jury. 3 years later, Christie was discovered to be a serial killer of at least 8 people and later admitted to killing his neighbor's family. 54 years after his wrongful execution, Timothy Evans was officially exonerated.
That's what he got.
This video is so disturbing that a number of people have fell ill after watching it. Proceed with caution.
You put a pool in the microwave, Seekers? There's something wrong with her. By her damn self? Unacceptable.
I'm coming, baby. Okay? I'm coming.
30 minutes? Seekers, that whole freaking institute has to be checked out, Seekers, man. There's no way you should leave a child like that 30 minutes alone. It's like everybody else just left and just left her. What? Oh, she got a suit. Seekers.
So this photo is the reason you shouldn't put your feet up on the dashboard of a car. Whoa. In 2007, Granny Keeley had an airbag deploy on her at 120 miles an hour. She was sitting passenger with her feet up on the dash, and when the airbag went off, her knees went right into her skull. Obviously, this led to a brain injury. Her 2 front teeth also fell out, but she lived, thankfully. She lived without a forehead for about 2 years until surgeons fitted a ceramic forehead into her skull. She had near constant headaches, and she developed gallstones because of the medication she was on. After they fitted a ceramic plate into her forehead, they injected fat from her stomach into it so it could look more natural. This is her today, so she looks very normal now. And of course, because she's in good spirit, she says her ceramic forehead is designer because it was made in Italy. She also spent a considerable amount of time educating people on why they shouldn't put their feet up on the dashboard. Because if you do, you can end up like this. And you might not be so lucky. So, if you get anything from this video, stop putting your feet up on the dash. Okay. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational and entertainment purposes only.
I will not be doing that anymore. See, because y'all guys put your feet up on the dash, y'all might want to rethink that.
What they find out years later will haunt you. A young couple decided to take a late-night stroll through the forest, but little did they know what awaited them. As they walked, the man felt a sense of unease, but his girlfriend dismissed his concerns. Suddenly, the man stepped on something that felt alive and squishy under his feet. Before he could react, they heard rustling from the bushes beside them. They ignored it and kept walking until they returned home. Years later, and they were watching TV when an interview with a death row inmate caught their attention. The man had been asked if he had ever came close to getting caught for his heinous crimes. The killer responded with a chilling tale. Yes, I remember one night in the woods, a couple walked right by me. The man stepped on the body of the girl who I had just killed. I was hiding in the bushes just a few feet away, but they never saw me. The couple watched in horror as the name of one of the most notorious serial killers was revealed. His name was Ted Bundy. Follow because my next story is crazy.
You never know, Seekers. You never know. Follow that gut feeling.
The man you saw in that video, Richard Ragland, went on to drown that day. And this GoPro footage actually captured his final moments of life. Before his death, Richard actually served in the National Guard. Everybody remembered him as having the biggest heart and being a very smart guy. However, on June 4th, 2017, a freak accident would cause Richard to drown in the water he was swimming in Georgia. To this day, nobody knows exactly what killed Richard or what forced him under the water, but his friends that were with him that day stated that he went under the water. They tried to help him, but there was no way they could get him back up to the surface. So after his death, Richard's family mourned their loss. But it wasn't until years later when a diver actually recovered that GoPro sitting at the bottom of that water. The diver's name was Rich Abernathy. He has a YouTube channel where he goes into bodies of water and dives. And he was diving in that same water in Tennessee when he came across a GoPro. And when he looked at the contents of that GoPro, the connection was made that this was Richard Ragland, the man who had drowned there only a few years prior. I'm going to play you a little bit more of that video. It is just some really haunting stuff.
What happened?
Being with brothers and sisters, we live in life.
Just went under and that's it?
We live in life. The thing is, one common goal that we all share is the same goal.
If you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast Murder in America that I co-host with my wife, Courtney. It's available on all streaming platforms.
What happened, Caesar? She laughing.
Things that are scarier at night. Corn mazes.
They never bother me. I feel happy and fine. Living in the sunlight, laughing in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Playgrounds.
I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime. Living in the sunlight, laughing in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Playgrounds, corn mazes at night. I will not be there.
The ship that caused the bridge to collapse in Baltimore apparently had electrical issues prior to leaving port, but proceeded to go anyways.
What?
For those of you that don't know, this is the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and this cargo ship ran into it one night on March 26th. That caused 6 construction workers who were working on the bridge to fall and die. Now, initially, people thought this might have been some sort of terrorist attack, some sort of EMT device, remote control device that caused the boat to basically stop, restart, and move right into one of the pylons here holding up this bridge. But what is now kind of coming out as the FBI has opened up a criminal investigation as to see if any laws were broken, because the boat apparently, a source close to it said that it was having electrical issues while still at port, decided to leave anyways. This obviously caused the death of 6 people and a massive construction project. Now, the mayor of Baltimore actually released a statement that they had partnered with 2 law firms regarding this. They were going to launch legal action to hold the wrongdoers responsible, and will take decisive action to hold responsible all entities accountable for the Key Bridge tragedy, including the owner, operator, and manufacturer of the cargo ship. Now, the company that owns the cargo ship is Synergy and Grace Ocean, and they actually filed a petition to seek a limit to their legal liability in this case. They are trying to set the cap at $43.6 million maximum liability for this bridge, which would be obviously way more expensive to repair. Now, those companies filed the petition under the 1851 maritime law that allows them to seek to limit their liability to the value of the vessel's remains after the casualty. Basically stating that the value of the cargo ship was $90 million, minus out, $28 million for repair costs and $19.5 million in salvage costs. They limit their liability to that. Whereas attorneys for some of the victims are stating that they're using an archaic law to try and skate around paying what they're rightfully owed to pay. Now, the road crew that was on the bridge had 0 warning, whereas 6 of the people ended up perishing. 3 bodies still have not been recovered, and it was only a last-minute mayday that allowed the police to make it to the bridge to stop any traffic from coming over it.
If you haven't heard about the
the whole case, man, it was really just talking about the money seekers, man. But yeah, what about the people who freaking unfortunately had perished? They just trying to use that law in order to freaking save some money seekers. There was an electrical problem, they still left. There's more to that case, man. It meets the eye.
Extremely disturbing case known as the Girl Scout murders, then you may want to stick around. Viewer discretion is advised. In June of 1977, more than 100 girls headed off to Camp Scott in Locust Grove, Oklahoma, hoping for a summer filled with fun and newfound friendships. But little did these girls know that their dream would become short-lived extremely fast after a tragic event took place on the campgrounds. It was about 2 months before the incident occurred when a young camp counselor found a note in her belongings claiming that there was going to be 3 girls in one tent murdered this year while all the girls were attending camp. Knowing that the campers and other counselors like to play pranks on one another, she just dismissed the note and left it there as a joke. But little did she know that she would come to regret this very quickly when the tragic events began to unfold on the campgrounds. On the night of June 12, 1977, a storm blew through Oklahoma, leaving the girls to take cover and hide away in their sleeping bags to be protected from the bad weather. It wouldn't be until the next morning that a camp counselor would come and check on the girls after the storm and realize that 3 of them were stuffed deep down in their sleeping bags with bloody sheets and signs of strangulation, rape, and even mutilation. The 3 girls whose dead bodies were found in those sleeping bags were 8-year-old Lori Farmer, 9-year-old Michelle Goose, and 10-year-old Denise Milner. After the death of these 3 innocent girls, police and other law enforcement agencies rushed to the scene so that they could start their investigation and get to the bottom of who could have possibly targeted these 3 innocent girls.
One of the counselors?
Discovered near the campgrounds was a cave that police would decide to go into, where they would find masking tape and 2 wedding photos, which seemed to be a very strange combination. After the photos were released to the public, an old prison employee actually called in claiming that he has seen those photos before and he's almost certain he knows who committed these horrific acts on these young women. And he believed that the person behind these sick and twisted murders was a man by the name of Gene Leroy Hart, who was an escaped convict and convicted rapist back during the time of the Girl Scout murders. The crazy thing is, Hart was actually acquitted due to the lack of evidence on the police end, and he claimed that he was actually framed and that he did not commit the murders, even though there was trace evidence of his DNA found at the crime scene. And it's still unknown if Hart actually committed these murders or if he was actually just framed. And now, here in 2023, after the not guilty verdict years and years ago, there is new evidence that has arisen that Gene Leroy Hart was actually very closely linked with these murders.
This 10-year-old kid murdered other
And he
children,
got away with it.
and she pretty much got away with it. This is the twisted story of serial killer Mary Bell. So Mary was born in 1956 in England, and when she was a child, she displayed some disturbing behaviors. She was violent, she would lash out at her family, and they knew that there was just something wrong with her, but they didn't know exactly how far this temperament would take Mary. In 1968, a boy who had been playing with Mary Bell was pushed by her off of a roof. And later on that same evening, the parents of 3 small girls called the police and said that these girls had been playing with Mary Bell and that she had tried to strangle them while they were in a play pit. Now, Mary was interviewed by the police. Keep in mind, she was a child at the time as well. She claimed that she had nothing to do with this, the kids were lying, blah, blah, blah. And so the police let her off with a warning. They alerted local authorities, but they couldn't do anything. But that leads us to May 25th, 1968, the day before Mary Bell's 11th birthday. On that day, she lured a 3-year-old boy named Martin Brown into an abandoned house and strangled him to death for no reason alone. She then left the boy's body in there and went on with her day. So the next day on Mary's birthday, she and a friend broke into a nursery and vandalized the place. And eventually, when the police checked the scene of the crime, they discovered some of these disturbing notes that Mary had left. This one read, "I murder so that I may come back." And another one said, "We did murder Martin Brown, F off." These notes were written by Mary Bell and left there. It was almost like she wanted to get caught, or she wanted to toy with the parents. Then, a couple months later, in July of the same year, 3-year-old Brian Howe went missing. And when they found Brian's body, they made some disturbing discoveries. There were puncture wounds covering the kid's legs. The letter M had been haphazardly carved into his stomach. Hair had been sliced off from his scalp,
and his privates had been mutilated. Eventually, though, it was found that Brian died from strangulation. And when the coroner was looking at his corpse, they determined that the killer was probably another child. So eventually, after a large manhunt and an investigation by the police, authorities were led to Mary Bell, who was seen playing with Brian on the day of his death. I mean, there are a lot of details that go into the story. I can make a more detailed story time if you want, but eventually Mary confessed to killing Brian and also confessed to murdering 3-year-old Martin just a few months prior. So after a 9-day trial, which there are some crazy details in that as well that we could cover, Mary Bell was cleared of the murder charges, but she was convicted of manslaughter charges. At the time, she was only 11 years and 6 months old, making her Britain's youngest convicted female killer. A statistic and a record that she still holds to this day. But Mary Bell only ended up serving about 12 years in prison for the murder of those 2 young boys. And she was released back into society in 1980 at the age of 23. She's still alive, and nobody knows exactly where Mary Bell is today, as she's been granted lifelong anonymity by British courts. She has her own child, and like I said, she's not dead, so nobody knows exactly where she is. So if you're watching this from England, your next door neighbor may have been a child killer. You never know.
Hit it on the head. You never know, Seekers, man. Who the person you live in the next to, who they truly are, man. She was that young, and she kept doing it, and freaking 9 days, she just got acquitted off those charges. But she got charged with something else, Seekers. But it's just like, damn. She was 11 years old and 6 months, that young. I don't think that something like that should ever be should be broken, man. Kids should be kids. Blows my mind, Seekers, man. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end, man, you're true seekers seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support, man. As you guys can see, man, I'm cutting back on the chatter. You guys say you don't want me to talk too much, man, so I'm trying to cut back on that. The mic is coming, so guys, the audio quality will be even better. We're gonna grow, Seekers, man, but I need your guys' help, man, by hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, hitting that post notification bell, and follow me on all my social medias, man, so we can grow so we can grow the Seekers together. We're in this together, man. Let's keep going. I'm out. Peace, Seekers. What's up, Seekers? Welcome back to the channel. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing alright, man. If you guys are brand new to the channel, you guys didn't know what we do. We break down scary and creepy videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel. Want to thank the Seekers, man, who's been tapping into the channel, subscribing, hitting that like button, and hitting that post notification bell, man. That's how we can grow together as a community, so I really appreciate your support. Let's do what we do best, Seekers, man. Let's seek the truth.
After watching Quiet on Set, I realized that predators like this will purposely get jobs that involve children. So this is Brian Peck, and he worked with Nickelodeon in the early 2000s, and he was an acting and dialogue coach. Well, it turns out that he was essaying Drake Bell at a very young age. Drake was only 15 years old when this was going on, but he actually didn't tell anyone until he revealed everything in this documentary. Brian was somehow able to manipulate Drake and turn him against his father, and then he took that opportunity to get him alone and do disgusting things to him. But eventually in 2003, Drake spoke up and Brian was arrested and charged with SA. Now, my jaw dropped to the floor when I found out that this 43-year-old man was only sentenced to 16 months in jail. And then it gets even worse. After his release, despite him being registered as a sex offender, he still found work in Hollywood and began working on the set of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Now, shortly after Drake spoke out about what happened to him, he started on set with this new show, Drake and Josh. And what I find crazy is that as kids, we're watching these shows and we're being entertained, but we actually have no idea what's going on behind the scenes.
One of the suspects.
It's the dark things about Hollywood, Seekers. Like she said, man, when we were freaking little watching these shows, Drake and Josh, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, man, R. Carly, bro, those are the freaking shows. At least for me, man, when we was freaking growing up, man, those are like, yeah, the prime shows, right, that you always watch, and they have such a dark and speaking sinister origins, backstories behind them. You can't even, I don't even look at them the same now, Seekers, when I freaking, like, you know, watch them. Something to keep in mind.
and Preston Lord's murder has been released from jail. 16-year-old Preston was assaulted during a Halloween party on October 28, 2023, and passed away 2 days later at the hospital. December, 7 suspects who were part of a group called the Gilbert Goons were investigated, and in March, they were arrested and charged with the murder of Preston and other charges. Each of the suspects were issued a $1 million bond, and up until this point, they all remained in jail. But now, one of those suspects, 17-year-old Talon Vigil, has been released after posting bond. According to a statement from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Talon Vigil's bond was paid and he was released on Friday with electronic monitoring. This monitoring will continue until he goes to trial. The Sheriff's Office also said that the other 6 defendants remain in custody and have not posted their bail. It's not clear if they expect any of the other suspects to post bail as well, but if they do and they are released, they will also be subject to electronic monitoring. And it's also unclear exactly when a trial will begin. While it could take some time for a trial to begin because they may still be collecting evidence and putting a case together, since the defendants have actually been charged, they have the right to a speedy trial, so it's unlikely that it will take too long.
I hate this. 20 years is nothing. It's not enough. In all honesty, I don't think my mother's life is worth 20 years. And I had to learn to live without my mom. I had to graduate next year. I had to go through all life steps without a mom. And I already did not have a father. So the fact that you took away my one and only love, you should be ashamed of yourself. Ashamed. My mom would walk in the room and everyone's demeanor would change. She could make you laugh. She could make you cry. She was the funniest person. And what you did to my cousin wasn't right. The type of person that she was very loving and caring. She was always there for me. She's never going to be able to see my little cousin grow up. You have 2 daughters who have a mom. She's not going to be able to see her mom anymore. You went on the run, you didn't care, you're a selfish person, you're careless for your actions that you did. 20 years is not enough time. It should have been you instead.
See, just the way she ended it out, man. I couldn't even imagine, like, you have to confront the person who did that, who will lie to your secrets, and you have to, like, to sum it up in the last words before you never see him again. I don't think it is. Not enough words. Said it's like they said 20 years, man. It's not enough for their mom. Like, that's never enough time, man. Much mom to be in life forever for how long she can be, and to find out that a person just took them away from you. Evil world secrets. Added. Yeah, that's an edit. You can see the fake photo right there.
This doctor was caught storing poisoned IV bags because he was angry over potentially losing his job. This all started in August 2022 when a surgical center in Dallas was forced to be closed down after there were a number of unexplained emergencies during patient procedures. One of these emergencies included this healthy 18-year-old who came in for a sinus surgery. Well, he ended up going into cardiac arrest and almost lost his life. All the patients who had the same reaction during a routine procedure survived, except for this woman who also happened to be a doctor. Dr. Melanie Casper became sick one day and was given an IV bag to take home to help her feel better. But minutes after inserting the needle, she suffered a heart attack and passed away. It turns out that these patients were poisoned with a nerve blocker, which was later found in the IV bags. After conducting an investigation, they realized that these IV bags had small holes in them, which showed that they were tampered with. Then, after looking at surveillance footage, Dr. Reynaldo Ortiz was seen storing tainted IV bags, which turned out to be the same bags used on these patients. Prosecutors believe that Dr. Reynaldo was angry that he was going to lose his job over a problem in one of his previous surgeries and think that's why he did this. He now faces up to life in prison if convicted.
If you're a woman
palms
that
on somebody else.
You need to watch this video and raise awareness.
What the fuck?
Excuse me, what are you doing? No, I just saw you put that underneath your dress.
The woman who posted the video of this creepy man shared her story saying, I ran to Target today in Greenville, North Carolina for a few items. I stopped by the baby section to look at clothes for my grandbaby. A young man was suspiciously close to me and holding his phone at a very weird angle. I thought maybe he was trying to Bluetooth my info from my phone that was visible from my jumper. I was wearing a wide leg one-piece jumper. I gave him a look and he murmured something about sorry he was just looking at clothes. Then I noticed he was getting really close to another woman in the store. I decided this was too much of a coincidence and I decided to follow him at a distance. She then put her phone in the cup holder of the shopping cart to record him and see what he was up to. A young woman was squatted down looking at something on a bottom shelf and he got right next to her, so close I was wondering if they were together. Then she stood up and moved a little to her left and squatted again. This time the man approached from behind and had his phone at that weird angle and stuck it under her dress to video or take a photo. I immediately shouted to him and he stood up. She then says they called security and eventually 911 and had the man arrested, and she said, we as women need to look out for each other. Also, ladies, you are safe with me. I have your back every time. That man's name is Thomas Elliott, and what's even worse is he's a volunteer at an elementary school. He has since posted a $5,000 bond and is always looking to be as updated.
This YouTuber...
You gotta be aware, Seekers. Like, you could tell in the freaking video how he was acting weird. Like, when she assumed, like, as she turned around, he tried to just, like, turn around too, just bend down, put the phone down. Like, I freaking seen that a couple of times on these videos, man. It's hard to believe that a person would do something like that. And it would do it just in, like, plain sight, too. Like, in the stores, you know, cameras and stuff around, so you know there's a chance that you can get caught doing something like that, and, like, the consequences, look what happened. Like she said, the woman, man, stick together, try to protect themselves, because you never know, and there are freaks everywhere.
But vlogged his plans to murder and decided the fate of people's lives on the toss of a coin. Randy Stair was a 24-year-old who enjoyed vlogging on YouTube. He actually named himself Andrew Blaze and kept videos and recordings expressing that he wanted to unalive himself. He provided plans of how he would carry out a shooting and beliefs that in doing so he could cross over into a cartoon world. In April 2017, he posted the video Fate by Coin Flip. He explained that if heads won, he would unalive himself at home. If tails won, however, he would carry out a mass unaliving at his work. In a dramatic video that has obviously since been removed, tails won on the final coin flip. In June 2017, he was working a late-night shift at Wise Markets in Pennsylvania. During closing time at around 11 p.m., he went to the back of the store and blocked off an emergency exit. He then continued to stock shelves and clean up. An hour later, he sent links via his Twitter account detailing his murderous plans. He then went on to block off other exits of the store. He put on black eyeliner and black lipstick and went to his car and sent his mum a text message explaining how he would like to be disposed of. He pulled out 2 weapons and started his plan. He killed Victoria Brong, Brian Hayes and Terry Lee Sterling. He actually approached his co-worker Kristen Newell, who had headphones in, so she hadn't heard what had gone on. She reports that he stared at her for a few moments and then simply walked on and didn't shoot her. She actually managed to escape and called 911. While she was on the phone to police, Randy unalived himself. Many wanted the store to be closed permanently, but in July that year the store was reopened with a new interior and new layout. The community knew that Randy would have wanted the store to be shut down permanently, and they didn't want him to win.
Tragic event happened like that. Yeah, just shut down that store, because you don't even want to be reminded of the actions that took place there, because the whole thing planned out, man. That's just a freaking dark and tragic story. Close the store.
Mum, can you just pass my drink that's on the table, please? Thanks.
Yeah, dude. What the?
This is a cannibal that used the gay dating app Grindr to find victims so he could eat them. So on Christmas Eve 2019, 25-year-old Kevin Bacon told his roommate that he was going out for the evening to meet up with a man that he had recently been talking to on the dating app Grindr. Now, after 3 days, Kevin failed to come home or contact any of his friends or family, and they started to get worried, and they eventually went to the police to issue a missing persons warrant. Later on the day that he was reported missing, Kevin's car was actually found abandoned in a parking lot, along with all of his clothes and his cell phone. Using his cell phone, police were able to actually access his Grindr account and see that the last person he had messaged on there was a man named Mark Lutunsky. Police were able to track down Mark Lutunsky, and they asked him if they could look around his house for a bit, and he actually happily agreed. However, when police went down to the basement, they made an absolutely horrific discovery. Hanging from the rafters by his ankles was the nude body of Kevin Bacon. His throat had been slashed, his body had been drained of blood, and most shocking of all, he had actually been castrated. Upon further questioning, Mark happily admitted that he had actually castrated Kevin and then fried up his testicles and ate them, and that he was planning to use a food dehydrator on the rest of Kevin's body so he could preserve it and eat it later. After Mark was arrested for the death of Kevin, police actually discovered that he had had several previous run-ins with the law in the months leading up to the death. 2 men on 2 previous occasions actually called 911 stating that they had escaped from Mark's basement after he drugged them, tied them up, and was planning to torture them. In both cases, police just chalked it up to a gay dispute, and they didn't actually look further into it. Mark was quickly found guilty of Kevin's death, and now he's currently serving life in prison.
Hey guys, there's been a
Goes to show you, Seekers, like I said, once again, the details on it, if they would have just stayed consistent with it, they just dismissed it all as just a dispute, that could have potentially saved your life. Gotta be aware, Seekers, man. Pay attention to the details.
A bit more information to come out about the Riley Strain case that I thought was pretty interesting. As you already know, Riley is the University of Missouri student who went missing after he went to a few downtown bars in Nashville with his fraternity brothers. His body was found in the Cumberland River 2 weeks after he went missing. I literally think about this case every day still. Something is not sitting right with me. I feel so bad for his family. But the mystery has deepened a bit because Riley's mother has revealed a text message that he sent to her a few hours before he went missing. In a nutshell, Riley texted his mom that night to tell her his drink tasted strange. His mother, Michelle, stated that Riley had ordered a rum and coke and he told her it didn't taste good. His mother has now shared her fears that the drink might have contained something that it shouldn't have, which could explain Riley's behavior in those videos and why he was acting the way he was before he went missing. I do think we've all suspected this could possibly have happened all along. She said there might have been something in the drink that shouldn't have been, and that he stated it tasted like barbecue. I've never had a drink taste like barbecue. That is just odd. And she stated that she replied to him, "That sounds awful." And he said, "Well, it sounds good, but it's not." As you all know, he had been at Luke Bryan's bar, Luke's 32 Bridge Bar. It really sounds to me like he was texting and acting completely normal until he wasn't. And it was like, boom, something was off. Another bit of information I learned was that a renowned forensic expert by the name of Dr. Bill Bass stated that he fully believed that the fact that his pants were ripped off could totally indicate he was murdered. He said he would say somebody took those pants off. He said it is very hard for pants to come off in the water. Again, something just is not right with this case. I've been saying it all along. I hope investigators are looking at all possible leads. I hope they're getting the video footage. I hope they have video footage that just hasn't been released yet. What are y'all thinking about all of this? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to give me a follow.
A brand new report outlining what may have actually happened to the men inside the Titan submersible when it imploded has been released, and it is absolutely harrowing. So unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you must have heard about the billionaires who paid $250,000 each to go in a dodgy submarine to see the wreck of the Titanic. So it went missing on the 18th of June and likely imploded that same day. Most experts have said that the 5 men wouldn't have known they were in danger at all, as the submarine would have imploded almost instantaneously. However, a recent report by engineer and underwater expert Jose Martin suggests that this was not the case. In his report, he writes that the men would have likely been aware of the impending implosion. In fact, he believes that they would have known their fate anywhere from 48 to 71 seconds before it happened. The report hypothesizes that the submarine was at a depth of 5,500 feet when it malfunctioned, and at that point the vessel would have taken a nosedive towards the seafloor. And as it plummeted, it would have been impossible for the men to operate it. So the next part of the report is quite unnerving to imagine, but we have to remember that this is just a hypothesis. No one can ever actually know for certain what happened to the men inside of the Titan submersible. But Jose believes that as the submarine fell, the men would have crowded on top of one another. He then writes in his report, and I quote, "In that period of time, they," meaning the 5 men, "are realizing everything. and what's more, in complete darkness. After 41 to 71 seconds of falling, the submersible would have imploded, causing instant fatality. It's horrifying to even consider, but we have to remember that this report is merely assumption. Well, I say that, but it is based on theory, so there is some kind of backing to this report. But the 5 men may have had no idea what was happening to them as it did. And I guess for the sake of them and their families, let's hope that was the case.
Secret, what do you guys think, man? When that case came out, it was everywhere, man. People say that this happened instantaneously, so they didn't know what happened, but now there's a report coming out saying that they might have known that the end was near. What do you guys think, Seekers? Do you guys believe that report, or like she said, it's kind of iffy, man? That was a freaking tragic case. I'll have to say it, Seekers.
People don't feel safe anymore. Something so simple as going to the mall with your kids is like putting your life in danger. Over the weekend, this 40-year-old man began attacking random people with a knife in a mall in Sydney, Australia. It's clear that the attacker was targeting women because out of the 6 lives that were taken, 5 were women, except for the mall security guard who got in the way, and because of that, his life was also taken. Now, what happened to this specific woman really makes me think about all the mothers. This is 38-year-old Ash Good, and she was at the mall with her 9-month-old daughter when all this happened. Tragically, Ash was one of the victims and her life was taken as she tried to protect her daughter. Her baby was also wounded, but before Ash fell to the ground, she handed over her daughter to a stranger and begged for them to save her daughter's life. 9-month-old Harriet survived, but her mother didn't, and it makes me so sick that this child now has to grow up without her mother over something so senseless as this. The attacker continued to try to hurt people in the mall, but he was confronted by a police officer and they took him out. This is something that's been happening way too often now, and the fact that we have to be on edge when we're at the mall is insane.
Thank you so much.
It's true, Seekers. Like I said, nowadays, man, every time you step out, it's the sad truth, but you're risking your life. Like when you go to the store and you're going out to eat, man, this is the times we living in. Hopefully, man, like I said, as we guess, it can get better, but Seekers, this world, I know I said it a couple of times, but this world, we really have to work on ourselves. We need to be better. Going to the mall shouldn't be a life or death situation. It really shouldn't. It's really simple, man.
Much for this comment. Confirmed, Thomas Elliott from Greenville, North Carolina, that tried to take a photo of a woman's dress in Target, has been charged with felony secret peeping. He is out on bail, but there's one other update I want to show you. So first thing, that bond, $5,000. I don't feel great about that, but I understand bonds are set by charge, but this is a felony charge, really $5,000. But the other update, a spokesman with Pitt County School confirmed that Elliott was a volunteer at Eastern Elementary School in Greenville and provided the following statement. We are disturbed and deeply concerned by video footage of the individual that has been shared on social media and news outlets, and based on the footage, that individual will not be returning to our campuses as a volunteer or hired as an employee. Prior to being granted access to our campuses, volunteers and visitors are screened through Raptor, a program that determines if individuals are listed in offender databases. If an individual is flagged in Raptor, they are not granted access to our campuses. So essentially, he wasn't flagged before. Surely he will be now with this felony peeping charge. And the last statement is the video footage has been posted to social media, which, yes, it sure has, hasn't it? Let me know your thoughts on him being out on bond and now being fired. I am curious. I have seen some comments that he has also been released from his duties at the church. I hope that is true. Don't like the idea of this man around anyone, really. The video is just so disturbing, but let me know your thoughts.
This substitute teacher was found in the back of her car with no clothes on with one of her students. This is Erin Ward. She's a substitute teacher from Nebraska. This happened on April 13th in the early hours around 1 to 3 a.m. The police got a call about a suspicious vehicle parked at the dead end of a road. At the scene, deputies found 2 people in the back of a gray Honda Pilot, Erin Ward and her student. The 17-year-old student reportedly jumped in the driver's seat and sped off, crashing into a yard nearby. He then got out of the car and fled on foot, naked. Deputies then got a hold of Erin Ward in the backseat, putting her clothes on. The vehicle was apparently owned by Ward and Ward's husband. Yes, she's married. She then admitted to deputies that she was having an affair with her high school student. Deputies then located the student. He had socks, a shirt, and boxers on. The officers transported the teen to a safe place to receive medical care and be interviewed. They did the same thing with Erin Ward. Erin Ward was then booked into the county jail. The principal of the school then put out a message. This substitute teacher will not be returning to our school for the 2023 to 2024 school year. I mean, duh. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
What is it with these teachers, man? They just be getting caught with their students. Like, there needs to be a better way of system to screening these type of people, man, so this can happen way less, because I'm seeing an uptick, which is really bad, Seekers.
Jaylen and her boyfriend have been arrested in connection with the murder of her 5-year-old daughter. Welcome back to Primers. Yet again, another kid case. These always make me super uncomfortable. And this poor beauty was so gorgeous. So this was 5-year-old Kinsley Welty, and her mother, Toni McClure, and her boyfriend, Ryan Smith, are being accused of locking her in a closet and keeping her covered in waste. Who would do that? And this all went down in Minneapolis when police responded to a report of an unconscious child. According to police, the conditions of Kinsley's living were just completely horrendous and unbelievable. Kinsley was transported to a hospital where she would later pass away, and her mother and her boyfriend were subsequently arrested, and they are being charged with child neglect. Police have found Kinsley with lice all over her face, feces plastered on her hair and feet. Not to mention, she was locked in a closet. And here is Kinsley's waste-of-space mother and her boyfriend. A relative of Kinsley's is saying that the home was investigated when Kinsley was just 3 weeks old, but the system failed her. This is such an unbelievably tragic case, and my heart goes out to that baby and her family members who loved and adored her.
Within this tattered teddy bear is not something, but a living, breathing human, a prisoner of a heinous charade. Early 2000s, Savannah. Martha and Eugene Grimes, a couple revered for fostering children and aiding the needy, harbored dark secrets in their sprawling Victorian home. Guests seeking refuge were sedated by the Grimes and forcibly stitched into animal costumes, turned into unwilling performers for a perverse entertainment. The Grimes' grotesque charade continued undetected for 18 years, the truth hidden by the couple's veneer of generosity and community spirit. The horrors were unearthed in 2022 when a former foster child, triggered by the game Five Nights at Freddy's, recalled the trauma, leading to a shocking investigation. As the investigation deepened, authorities uncovered a mass grave on the property's outskirts. Amidst the overgrowth, many victims were found, still grotesquely bound within their costume prisons.
Up here in Seekers, that one got to me because it's just like how they just changed just by like the snap of their fingers, like to the outside where they just seem like good people, but behind the scenes they're completely different people, man. Stitching people to their costumes, making them like entertainment. The hell, and they were that long for 18 years, and it took Five Nights at Freddy's, that the video game, to finally unearth the truth. It's scary, Seekers, man, how people can just change just like that. I'm telling you, really don't know somebody until you see them behind the scenes.
In the mountains north of
The man that you just saw in that video was 47-year-old Kenny Veach, and he disappeared hiking in the mountains of Nevada after finding a bizarre cave near Area 51. So Kenny was an avid outdoorsman who posted to his YouTube channel very frequently, but on November 10th, 2014, Kenny vanished. On that day, he set off on a hike, He left his camera equipment at home, and yeah, he totally disappeared. Now, something interesting to add in here is Kenny was basically a survivalist.
Oh.
He had been doing these trips out into the mountains for 20 plus years. He knew how to climb cliffs, he knew how to deal with rattlesnakes, he knew the proper equipment and supplies he'd need to bring on these hikes, and yet he completely vanished. Here's a little map people online created showing where Kenny could have possibly vanished. But it's the words that he spoke in a 2014 YouTube video titled Son of an Area 51 Technician that are bizarre. I'm going to read you this quote from his video that he posted. "That ain't nothing. I'm a long-distance hiker. One time during one of my hikes out by Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me." To this day, nobody knows exactly what happened to Kenny Veach. His body has never been recovered, and he's never made another appearance in society. For example, family members and someone who claimed to be Kenny's ex-girlfriend claimed that at the time that he went missing, he was really depressed. He had started to try sell inventions that never took off, and he had allegedly told someone close to him that if he ever took his own life, no one would ever find him. But still, nobody's ever found Kenny. So what do you guys think? I'm going to play a little clip from one of his other videos at the end of this TikTok, but let me know your comments below. And if you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast Murder in America that I co-host with my wife, Courtney. It's available on all streaming platforms.
Lots of little caves. But they're, you know, they're not the kind of cave I'm looking for. The kind of cave I'm looking for is deep, and it's dark, and it's shaped like it's shaped just like the letter M.
The fact that this man who worked with kids for so many years was good friends with John Wayne Gacy, one of the most disturbing serial killers, is insane. And if you don't already know, John Wayne Gacy was also known as the Killer Clown, but in the 1970s, he arred and murdered over 30 young men and teenage boys, and he actually buried a lot of them under his house. So while John was in prison, him and Brian became pen pals, and Brian actually kept all his letters from John in his nightstand. John also drew this clown painting for Brian, and in the back he wrote, "To Brian, I hope you enjoyed the painting. Best wishes, your friend John Wayne Gacy." This was revealed for the first time in the documentary Quiet on Set.
I noticed a painting in the room that stuck out to me because it had nothing to do with Planet of the Apes. It was of a birthday clown holding balloons. And Brian got very excited when I asked him about it. He flipped the thing around, and on the back it said, "To Brian, I hope you enjoy the painting. Best wishes, your friend, John Wayne Gacy." It was a self-portrait of serial killer, John Wayne Gacy. At this point, I'm like 14. I didn't know, like, the details, but I knew, like, this guy's a serial killer who, like, killed a lot of young men and boys. My instinct was, like, everyone has to see this. And so, like, all the parents and the kids come into the room, and then Brian presents the painting again. And Brian actually developed a pen pal relationship with John. He kept, like, this pile of letters and photos from John Wayne Gacy in his nightstand next to his bed. And he, like, pulls them out and starts showing them to me. Your instinct is to give someone the benefit of the doubt. If you've known them for that long, even in the face of, like, this really bad sign. It was one of those, like, classic failures of group psychology. This man who was, like, trusted as basically a supervisor of kids is not safe.
He should have been if he'd investigated there. He was pen pals with that type of person. That's a red flag. That's like, whoop, whoop, whoop. Going over my head, Seekers. Man. The Hollywood, bro, it's a weird place. You gotta know how to freaking, if you're trying to get into that business, you gotta know how to really move, man. Stay away from people like that. Seekers, that's it, man, for this video for you guys today. like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. You guys stay with me to the end. If you guys stay with me to the end, you're true seekers seeking the truth. I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I want to get some, like I said, some new gears that's coming to the channel soon. So stick with me, guys. Like I said, in order for the seekers to grow, hit that subscribe button, man. Hit that like button. Hit the post notification bell so we can grow the seekers together. Guys, can catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, seekers.